Hello and welcome to Newsweek South Asia, your one-stop destination for in-depth analysis of security challenges, regional conflicts, and the evolving threat of terrorism. Let's take a look at the headlines first. Pakistan's terror proxies fume as Bilawal Bhutto offers extradition of terror leaders to India. India leads global anti-terrorism call at BRICS, slams double standards. And Islamist extremism resurges in Bangladesh as minorities face renewed persecution. Pakistan's duplicity on terrorism is once again exposed. This time, not by India or the global watchdogs, but from within its own political corridors. Former Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto's bold remarks suggesting Pakistan could extradite terror leaders like Hafiz Saeed and Masood Azhar to India has sparked fury, not among the political elite, but among the country's most dangerous terror syndicates. Lashkar-e-Taiba's Talha, son of the globally designated terrorist Hafiz Saeed, has lashed out in a rare video, attacking Bhutto and accusing him of betraying Pakistan's so-called national interests. Here's a report on the growing rift between Pakistan's political face and its deep state-backed terror machinery.
In a statement that stunned observers and rattled the terror ecosystem thriving inside Pakistan, Pak's former Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto Zardari told Al Jazeera last week that Islamabad would be more than happy to extradite wanted terrorists like Hafiz Saeed and Masood Azhar to India, provided New Delhi showed the political will to cooperate.
Bilawal Bhutto's statement is very controversial for many reasons. First of all, the people he is referring to, Hafiz Saeed and Masood Azhar, Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed, they are condemned UN terrorists. The UN, they are listed in the UN list of terrorists. So Pakistan should just hand them over. The UN should start a procedure and hand them over. Actually, within Pakistan, they keep saying that we don't know where they are, but everybody knows they are there. And within Pakistan, Bilawal Bhutto has been condemned both by by Imran Khan's party and by the family of Hafiz Saeed, by his son, because they are saying that how dare you do this. Finally, Bilawal Bhutto, he is talking about a comprehensive dialogue, and as a result of that dialogue, he will be able to hand over these people. India has made it very clear that there is no dialogue with Pakistan till they show a sincere and verifiable commitment to end state-sponsored terrorism and to end their support for these groups like Jaish-e-Mohammed and Lashkar-e-Taiba. So till we have that, there is no question of any dialogue with Pakistan, and we have always said that talks and terror do not go together. So Bilawal Bhutto is trying to make just talk in the air just like that. He's not going to get anywhere with that.
This remark has sent shockwaves to Pakistan's entrenched jihadist network. Leading the backlash is Hafiz Saeed, son of Lashkar-e-Taiba chief and a US designated global terrorist.
हम ये समझते हैं कि पाकिस्तानी हुकूमत और रियासत किसी भी मोड़ पर इस तरह का कदम हरगिज़ नहीं उठा सकती.
In a video released, Talha slammed Bhutto, declaring him not a true Muslim and branding his comment as irresponsible and shameful. Talha went further, attacking Bhutto's Pakistan's People's Party, claiming its leadership has a history of towing Western and Indian narratives and even providing critical information to foreign powers. He called on Pakistan's patriotic media to launch a campaign against Bhutto's betrayal. While Hafiz Saeed is said to be serving a 33-year sentence for terror financing, many international observers, including Indian agencies, dispute the credibility of his so-called house arrest, citing reports of him continuing to guide LET operation. As for Masood Azhar, Bhutto claimed he is not even in Pakistan, a claim routinely made by Islamabad to deflect pressure. Masood Azhar, linked to the Parliament attack in 2001, the deadly Pathankot airbase attack and Pulwama assault, was once in Indian custody before being released during the 1999 Kandahar hijacking crisis. Despite being proscribed by the UN and Pakistan's own National Counter-Terrorism Authority, he has never faced justice for crimes committed on Indian soil. India has long maintained that terror outfits like Jaish-e-Mohammed and Lashkar-e-Taiba operate freely on Pakistan soil, with active support from the country's military intelligence complex, a claim echoed by global watchdogs like FATF. The Pakistani establishment, however, continues to deny any involvement in state-sponsored terrorism.
I'm talking of the internal situation in Pakistan, where everybody knowingly, because technically speaking, even Pakistan will say, because it's a UN-linked terrorist, UN-identified terrorist, Pakistan will say, we have also banned Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed, but we know that there is open support for them. Money is collected for them at every traffic light. The state gives them.
Bhutto's remark, though unlikely to translate into actual extradition, have ripped off the veil over Pakistan's duality, where political leaders may speak the language of reform but are quickly silenced by terror elements that still hold sway. The fact that a globally sanctioned terrorist son can publicly challenge a senior political leader and call for media trials says much about who really calls the shot in Pakistan.
India has once again sounded the alarm on the threat of terrorism emanating from Afghanistan. At a recent United Nations General Assembly meeting, New Delhi abstained from voting on a resolution concerning Afghanistan, citing deep concerns over the continued use of Afghan soil by internationally designated terrorist groups. The move reflects India's growing unease with the Taliban's regime's failure to clamp down on terror networks that pose a regional and global threat.
For decades, Afghanistan has served as fertile ground for terror networks to regroup, rearm and operate with impunity, posing a direct threat to regional peace. The return of the Taliban regime in 2021 only worsened the situation as globally sanctioned groups like Al-Qaeda, ISIS-K, Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed found a more permissive environment to expand their footprint. India's recent abstention from a United Nations Security Council resolution on Afghanistan stems from these unresolved threats. At the core of India's concern is the continued use of Afghan territory by these terrorist groups, many of whom operate with the logistical and financial backing of Pakistan's deep state. India's permanent representative to the UN, Ambassador Parvataneni Harish, announced New Delhi's decision to abstain from the UNSC vote, underscoring the security risks posed by terror outfits operating freely from Afghanistan.
India is closely monitoring the security situation in Afghanistan. The international community must direct its coordinated efforts towards ensuring that entities and individuals designated by the UN Security Council, the Al-Qaeda and their affiliates, ISIL and their affiliates, including Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed, along with their regional sponsors who facilitate their operations, no longer exploit Afghan territory for terrorist activities.
India's concerns are rooted in both past and present threats. Al-Qaeda thrived under Taliban protection in the 1990s, leading up to the 9/11 attacks. In the current landscape, ISIS Khorasan has staged deadly attacks across the region, including mass casualty strikes in Kabul, targeting mosques and foreign nationals. Meanwhile, Pakistan-backed groups like Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed continue to be linked to terrorist plots using Afghan soil. The Taliban's return has reignited fears that Afghanistan is once again becoming a sanctuary for transnational terrorism. India has also expressed concern over the complicity of regional actors, especially Pakistan, in supporting these terror outfits. New Delhi holds Islamabad responsible for harboring and enabling groups that have carried out major attacks, including the 2008 Mumbai massacre and the 2019 Pulwama suicide bombing. Despite international pressure, Pakistan continues to provide logistical, financial, and ideological support to groups like LET and JEM, whose operatives often move with impunity across the Afghanistan-Pakistan border.
While we remain committed to continued engagement with all relevant stakeholders and broadly support the international community's efforts towards a stable, peaceful and prosperous Afghanistan, India has decided to abstain on this resolution.
India's abstention comes shortly after the April 22 terrorist attack in Pahalgam, Jammu and Kashmir, which killed 26 civilians, an attack orchestrated by Lashkar-e-Taiba, a Pakistan-backed terror outfit. The Taliban's condemnation of the attack was welcomed by India, but New Delhi remains unconvinced by verbal reassurances. On the ground, reports from international agencies and independent monitors suggest that several UN-designated terror groups continue to operate training camps, safe houses, and recruitment networks within Afghanistan, with little resistance from the Taliban regime.
In conclusion, I would
India
like to
also highlighted recent diplomatic engagement between External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar and Afghanistan's acting Foreign Minister Amir Khan Muttaqi. The conversation underscored shared concerns over terrorism, with India welcoming Kabul's condemnation of the Pahalgam attack and urging vigilance against misinformation and the continued presence of terror sanctuaries.
On the political front, India's External Affairs Minister recently spoke with the acting Foreign Minister of Afghanistan. We welcome the strong condemnation of the Pahalgam terrorist attack of 22nd April by the Afghan side. This conversation followed a meeting between India's Foreign Secretary and the acting Foreign Minister, where both sides discussed various bilateral issues and regional developments.
India has a history of strong civil engagement with Afghanistan. Over 500 development projects across all provinces stand testament to India's commitment to Afghan reconstruction. However, New Delhi now faces a difficult balancing act, maintaining support for the Afghan people while confronting the reality that Afghan territory continues to serve as a base for cross-border terrorism.
In Bangladesh, the ouster of Sheikh Hasina and the rise of an interim administration under Muhammad Yunus have sparked renewed fears for the safety and rights of minority communities. Once hailed for relative secular tolerance, the nation is now witnessing a dangerous resurgence of Islamist extremism. Attacks on religious minorities, especially Hindus, have intensified, with the demolition of temples, intimidation of worshippers, and mob violence becoming alarmingly frequent. India has raised strong objections, warning Dhaka against allowing extremism to dictate state policy. Here's a report from Bangladesh's capital that highlights the growing insecurity faced by minorities.
In what can only be described as a disturbing act of religious persecution, a Durga temple in the heart of Dhaka was demolished by state authorities under the pretext of illegal land use. Bulldozers escorted by police razed the structure as Hindu men and women protested tearfully, pleading for protection. Over 500 people reportedly gathered outside the temple, many armed with sticks, demanding its demolition. The crowd was backed not by fringe radicals, but allegedly by institutional silence.
এরা গতকালকে ঢাকার কেন্দ্রস্থল এক ধরনের ঢাকার খিলক্ষেতের রেল লাইনের পাশে একটি মন্দিরকে গুড়িয়ে দিয়েছে সরকারি বোল্ড রেজার দিয়ে। এই ধরনের একটি নির্মম দৃশ্য সকলকে দেখতে হচ্ছে। সকল এই বিষয়টি সকলের মনে ভীষণভাবে দাগ কাটেছে এবং গতকালকের এই ধরনের যজ্ঞ, এই ধরনের ধ্বংসাত্মক এবং হিংসাত্মক ধর্মীয় উন্মাদনাকে আমরা সকলে প্রত্যক্ষ করেছি।
The visuals triggered outrage not just in Bangladesh, but across the region. Hindus, who make up around 8% of Bangladesh population, have historically aligned with secular governance under the Awami League. But since Sheikh Hasina's ouster, a marked shift in power dynamics has emboldened Islamist outfits and fringe radicals. Community leaders say minorities now live in fear, while authorities look the other way.
আমার অঙ্গটা জ্বললা যা, বুকটা চিরা যা, আমাদের প্রার্থনা করার মতন একটা জায়গা নাই। কি কষ্টটা দিয়েছে কারণে দেখাইতে পারতেছে না। তারা হাজার হাজার মন্দির মসজিদ থাকতে পারে, আমরা একটা মন্দির কেন থাকতে পারে না।
India reacted sharply to the temple's demolition. The Ministry of External Affairs condemned the act and criticized UNS-led interim government for downplaying the incident as an administrative matter instead of addressing the extremist undertones. India reminded Dhaka of its responsibility to safeguard minority communities, their faith and their dignity.
We understand that extremists were clamoring for demolishing the Durga temple in Khilket, Dhaka. The interim government, instead of providing security to the temple, projected the episode as illegal land use and they allowed the destruction of the temple today. This has resulted in damage to the deity before it was shifted. We are dismayed that such incidents continue to reoccur in Bangladesh. Let me underline that it is the responsibility of the interim government of Bangladesh to protect Hindus, their properties and religious institutions.
Earlier, India has raised serious concern over Bangladesh's deteriorating security situation, reporting over 2,374 attacks on minorities between August 5, 2024 and February 16, 2025. While Bangladeshi police have verified 1,254 of these cases, an alarming 98% were deemed political in nature. Among the victims are not just Hindus, but Christians, Buddhists, and members of the LGBTQ community, and even secular civil society activists.
Caretaker government has to actually prove and step up their activities and effects in order to curb these kinds of disturbances, because we have seen no evidence, and it is seeming likely that they are actually turning a blind eye towards all of these atrocities which is going on unabated day in day out. We can see extrajudicial executions, loot, arson, and at the end of the day all of these are being targeted towards the minority communities who are bearing the brunt. When I say minority, I not only mean the religious minority, for example Hindus, Christians, Buddhists, the members of the third gender, LGBT, but also the common ordinary Bengali person, irrespective of their caste, color, creed, their cultural identity and their way of life is being targeted by these organizations. And it seems likely that the administration has got a very definitive and proactive support so they can operate unabated and almost in an insulated way.
With the security apparatus weakened and extremist ideologies finding fertile ground, Bangladesh seems to be veering off its secular path. The streets of Dhaka have witnessed radical procession, openly calling for stricter Islamic governance. Experts fear that if this trajectory continues, the hard-won progress made in countering extremism under the previous administration could unravel swiftly.
India has once again taken center stage on the global platform, this time at the 17th BRICS Summit held in Brazil. With terrorism and global governance reforms high on the agenda, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's address not only highlighted India's unwavering stand against terror, but also exposed the double standards of countries that continue to shield terrorists for geopolitical interests. Our report. At the 17th BRICS Summit in Brazil's Rio de Janeiro, India succeeded in securing a united front among member countries against terrorism. The Pahalgam attack in Jammu and Kashmir, which claimed 26 lives earlier this year, was unanimously condemned in the strongest terms. The summit's Rio Declaration firmly rejected the use of terror as a tool of state policy and called for action against those who fund, support, or shelter terrorists.
On the session on peace and security, Honorable Prime Minister underlined that terrorism was a grave threat facing humanity. In this context, he noted that all the leaders have condemned Pahalgam terrorist attack in strongest terms. He underlined that the attack, the Pahalgam attack, terror attack, is an onslaught on the entire humanity. He also noted that those funding, promoting and providing safe havens to terrorists must be dealt with in the harshest terms.
Although the joint statement did not explicitly name Pakistan, the language left little ambiguity. It included references to cross-border terrorism and urged the international community to act against those who covertly or overtly abet such crimes. India's persistent diplomacy ensured that BRICS went beyond token condemnations this time.
ब्रिक्स के राष्ट्रों के द्वारा जो ब्राजील में हुए शिखर सम्मेलन के बाद साझा बयान जारी किया गया है, उसमें ब्रिक्स के राष्ट्रों ने भारत के जम्मू एंड कश्मीर राज्य के पहलगाम में हुए आतंकी हमले की कड़ी निंदा की है। हालांकि इस पूरे घोषणा पत्र में पाकिस्तान का नाम नहीं लिया गया, लेकिन इस बात बहुत स्पष्ट है कि ब्रिक्स के जो राष्ट्र हैं वो आतंकवाद के संदर्भ में अपने कड़े रुख को उन्होंने व्यक्त किया है, जो कि आज की समय की आवश्यकता है। भारत लगातार आतंकवाद के संदर्भ में अंतर्राष्ट्रीय समुदाय से इस बात की अपील कर रहा है कि अंतर्राष्ट्रीय समुदाय आतंकवाद के संदर्भ में जीरो टॉलरेंस की नीति अपनाए और सख्त रुख अपनाए। और ये बेहद हर्ष का विषय है कि ब्रिक्स के राष्ट्रों के द्वारा भी पहलगाम आतंकी हमले की कड़ी निंदा व्यक्त की गई है और इस पूरे आतंकवाद की चुनौती का मुकाबला करने के लिए ब्रिक्स के राष्ट्रों ने अपनी संकल्पबद्धता, अपनी एकजुटता को दर्शाया है।
Prime Minister Narendra Modi's speech at the summit resonated across international corridors. He reiterated that terrorism is not a national issue for India, but a global threat. He emphasized the need for zero tolerance and zero double standards, an unmistakable critique of those countries that continue to selectively fight terrorism.
तो रियलिटी ये है कि आतंक के मुद्दे को लेकर के कोई देश जितनी सीरियसनेस, परसिस्टेंस के साथ बात कर रहा है वो भारत है, कोई और देश नहीं कर रहा। इतनी सिंसेरिटी, इतनी परसिवियरेंस से। हाँ, आतंक से सब पीड़ित हैं, अमेरिका भी पीड़ित है, यूरोप भी है, सब हैं, परंतु अपने अपने देशों के अंदर ये अलग एंगल से फंसे हुए हैं। सब आतंक की बात करते हैं, लिप सर्विस करते हैं, और जब खुद आता है तो फिर उससे एंगेज करने में परेशानी होती है इन देशों को।
India's message found further reinforcement during bilateral meetings with countries like Brazil, Malaysia, Cuba, and Vietnam. 3 agreements were signed, including one specifically on countering international terrorism. India also called for UN Security Council reforms, IMF and World Bank restructuring, and the creation of a multipolar and inclusive global order, themes that dominated the summit's agenda. India also proposed the establishment of a BRICS Science and Research Repository and stressed securing critical mineral supply chains and advancing responsible artificial intelligence. These forward-looking initiatives reflect India's growing stature not just as a security partner but also as a development and innovation leader. Despite China's presence and participation, New Delhi's diplomatic maneuvering managed to bring terrorism front and center. Beijing's history of blocking UN listings of Pakistan-based terrorists came under subtle but sharp scrutiny. India's firm pushback against such duplicity left a strong imprint on the summit outcome, even if not named explicitly. And with that, we come to the end of this edition of Newsweek South Asia. We'll be back next week with more news, views, and analysis from the subcontinent. Meanwhile, do keep writing to us at nwsa@anin.com. This is Shivangi Mishra signing off on behalf of the entire team of Newsweek South Asia. Goodbye and take care.